This is Louis, and if you feel like playing some games or buying some statues related to the anime, check out the Ultimate Summer Sale at Play Asia. That's right, Play Asia, my affiliate. The link can be found in the description below. If you don't feel like playing games or buying a statuette,
and if you fancy a good wank,
check out J-List. Whether it's Play Asia or J-List, check out my affiliate. If not, how about checking out my Patreon account and supporting me there? Patreon. We haven't fucked up in a while, we swear. All the links, as always, are in the description.
So this is Louis, and I'm currently on my way home from a case that was pretty far away from where I live, but approaching where I live. However, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that happened, I believe, today. May have carried over from yesterday. I'm not really sure when this whole controversy started, but it's about fucking Roseanne, whatever her last name is. The controversy around some tweet she apparently sent out and then deleted, comparing some Obama era administrator, some person that worked for his administration. She made two comments about this person, one of which was that she compared her to the Planet of the Apes, not like she's an ape, she's a monkey, but she just compared her to the movie. And by itself, it doesn't really make a lot of sense if the tweet that I saw is the one that is the one she actually made. I just looked at it and I said, this doesn't even make any sense. It's like gibberish. I don't even get the connection. Like, I've seen white people call black people monkeys. I've seen them, say things that were very clearly racial slurs. And this didn't really strike me immediately as a racial statement. It just seemed like a bizarre statement about someone politically she didn't like, some random person that was part of the Obama administration. Roseanne, as far as I can see, has always been kind of out there politically. She's always been, I guess the best word I can use to describe her is a contrarian. She just sort of makes outlandish statements and people react. I can't really decipher what she is politically. I've seen people on the left and the right praise her. So, and it doesn't really matter. Roseanne Barr, I think it is. She's some celebrity. She's some actor. Who cares really what she thinks? I've seen Bruce Willis give or offer like nebulous or ironic support for Trump, but that Bruce is vaguely conservative. He's a Hollywood conservative, which is a conservative in quotation, or a conservative with a question mark at the end, like he's a conservative. And the thing is, though, is that I like Bruce Willis. I like his movies. I like his acting. I like Bruce Willis movies. But the thing is that do I really care what Bruce Willis believes politically? Not really. I don't really care what Frank Sinatra has to say politically. I don't really care what John Lennon especially has to say politically. I think his politics were terrible. But is that going to prevent me from listening to a Beatles song or listening to a Lennon song that I think is great? No, it's not. Because I think unless you make your art propaganda, then you should be able to distinguish the art from the artist. I think it's ridiculous that just because an artist or an actor says something that's stupid, that you somehow then have to tie what they do as an actor, as a career with it. But it's this progressive thing. It's this Maoist, ostracization of, like, you said something against the narrative, something against the bourgeois social norms, so you gotta go. We have to bulldoze your presence in society, which often includes your job. In my opinion, it's a Maoist strategy. Maybe I have to do a little bit more research on China and what happened during the Maoist revolution there. But the thing is that it's a distinctly totalitarian tactic because, like I said, any person in their right mind should be able to distinguish the actor from their work. The only exception that I'll give is if their work is just pure propaganda. Then I think it's acceptable to judge it based on the creator, because it's the creator self-inserting so much of their own politics into what should just be art. People can say that, well, to some degree, you're going to have artists insert their politics into their work and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's can be true, but I don't necessarily agree with that all the time. I've seen plenty of musicians just do completely apolitical work. For example, even though people don't like his music, Ted Nugent is an incredibly politically out there right-wing guy, but I've never listened to a single song from Ted Nugent, especially when he was back with whatever his band was, the Something Duke Boys. And, where I thought to myself, like, oh no, this is definitely a far-right propaganda song from Ted Nugent. Now, maybe some of his newer stuff is, if he is writing, is propagandistic, but I have never heard it, and I think that Ted Nugent is a loon. But the thing is that, like, just because I don't like his politics, or I disagree with his politics, or find him to be a fucking goofy fuck, doesn't mean that I can't just listen to a Ted Nugent song and enjoy it for what it is, a piece of art. Music. That's all it is. I find it incredibly political for someone to attach someone's work with them and what they have to say, their stupid opinion, as Roseanne is. She's an idiot. She's a goofball. The best thing I can say is she's contrarian. I don't even think she really qualifies as that. I just think she's an idiot. But the reason why I decided to do this, and I'm now parked, so I'm going to wrap this up, is I was listening to Sirius XM, and some fucking geriatric cocksucker was on one of the channels that I infrequently listen to, which is called Deep Tracks, which is like sort of light rock or pop rock, but more obscure songs, so like hipster songs, B-sides to old albums and shit. Some old geriatric got on the air, and it's the first time I've ever listened to that station and I've heard someone like go on a political rant, and the host of whatever show, or maybe the guy that runs the channel, as far as I know it's not a popular channel on the network, he was ranting and raving to the degree that an old fucking cocksucker could about this tweet from Roseanne Barr, where it's like, it's 50 years. It's an anniversary of when Dr. Martin Luther King was shot. And do you think that, is this appropriate? Have we not learned anything? And it's like, dude, can you fucking give it a break? Can you give it a rest? You're comparing some geriatric in her own right actress tweeting some bullshit that doesn't even make sense. It's not, like, if she said, this woman is a nigger, then it's like, whoa, there's a racial statement. What she said is gibberish. It doesn't even make any sense. But no, you gotta get on the air and fucking phone in outrage to the degree where you're as exasperated, where you have to take a breath, wheeze in and out as you're fucking lecturing America. Dr. Martin Luther King is dead! Hey, I'm so outraged! I wish it was a call-in show. I would have called in and told you shut the fuck up. I would have been like, bro, you're comparing some random, Z-list actress with a hit show, which is nothing more than a remake of an old show. Great originality there. A tweet by her. This is what you're screaming about. This is the thing that you're raising your blood pressure about. Is some actress tweeting some bullshit that is gibberish. And I would say to this guy, read me the tweet. What did the tweet say? Because it's gibberish. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't sound like anything that I've ever heard from a racist. It could be conceived as a racist tweet, but it's incomprehensible. It's gibberish. It makes no sense. But here we have people on the radio phoning in somebody else's talking point about how this is outrageous. Bleh! I'm 80 years old and I'm offended. You said something that could be tacitly a racial statement Meanwhile, we live in a country where you have major universities segregating their graduates for social justice. So, like, the thing is that, like, racial statements in this country are not offensive automatically if it's coming from a certain minority. Or, I guess I spoiled it, from a certain kind of person with a certain kind of skin pigmentation, unless it's Talcum X and they're a white man saying racial statements. But for the most part, if you're black, if you're Latino, you can make any kind of fucking racial statement you want to. You can demonize any fucking other group. I've heard Latinos and blacks demonize whites, and I've even heard them demonize Asians. To no effect. No one cares. A black person, a Latino person can demonize other racial groups. I was in a classroom in college. This was Buff State. And a Latina female in my one class, it was a philosophy course, she made an incredibly offensive statement about blacks. Nobody fucking said anything. You know why? Because she's not white. So the rules don't apply to her. All the rules that apply to whites, they don't apply to her. Why? Because she's not white. So she can get up there and say all kinds of derogatory shit about black people, and she can get away with it. One, because she has the pussy pass, because she was attractive. But two, she's not white, so she can get away with it. So let's dispense with Martin Luther King got shot 50 years ago. Well, Martin Luther King got shot so that major universities could segregate their fucking graduates. So that Harvard University graduates can be segregated from whites, and so that Asians can be discriminated against. Does that sound like what Martin Luther King was shot for? Does that sound like what he was martyred for? Doesn't to me. That's not what I was taught when I was growing up by my parents and also in school. I was told that segregation was wrong. That seeing myself different than a black individual was wrong. That egalitarianism was the right thing to believe and to practice. That is what I was taught, and now that I'm more philosophically astute than as I was then, I still believe that. I still believe that to be a noble ideal, something we should be striving towards. And so did Martin Luther King. Despite what everyone wants to say about him being an identitarian, Malcolm X was an identitarian for sure, and also a fascist, but Martin Luther King, especially towards the end, definitely promoted the idea of the struggle, quote unquote, also including the white man. That it wasn't a situation where it was the class of oppressor versus the class of the oppressed. It was the struggle in America. The worst you can argue is that it was a class argument, and if you don't like that argument, then you don't like that argument. But at least it was that argument. It wasn't Marxist in the sense that it was white man versus black man. That's what Malcolm X, especially when he was in Nation Islam, that's what he argued. But with Martin Luther King, especially towards the end, it was just the struggle. It was the struggle for recognition, but also the struggle of integration, of harmony in our society. Again, there are criticisms of him as an activist, but the thing is that he was an opponent of segregation and discrimination and racism and all the rest. He fought and is remembered for fighting for an egalitarian society where people are treated as the individual rather than their skin pigmentation. And yet you're out there invoking this, while at the same time there's no fucking way Mr. Jerk-Off Geriatrics on Deep Tracks, there's no fucking way you're calling out social justice activists on the left in modern times pushing for exactly what he was fighting against. There's no fucking way you're doing that. You know why? Because you're an old progressive fuck. You're an old man repeating somebody else's talking points. You're a sheep. You're just a bot. I know how progressives like to, especially the verified lefties, like to say, oh, you're a bot because they disagree with you. No, you're the bot. You're the one without an actual individual political distinction from everyone else. You have no actual politics. You're just regurgitating something you heard somebody else say. And the fact is that there needs to be more people pushing against this fucking phoned-in outrage bullshit. This person said something that wasn't sensitive and offensive. Oh yeah? Well, what about all these other fucking people saying that that whites need to die, that we need to have a genocide in America against whites, like that college newspaper kid? You know, where that's being printed at major universities. Let's just have a genocide against the whites. The crazy shit and properties, robbery through the government that's happening in South Africa, in Venezuela. Although in South Africa it seems to be race-based, in Venezuela it's just a state. But it's like, you don't care about any of that. You don't care about Asians being discriminated against at corporations and at major universities, the top ones in the country. You don't care about any of that shit. So you don't care about racism. You don't care about discrimination. You don't care about these things. You don't care about living in an egalitarian society. You're not an egalitarian. You're not actually an individualist. You don't actually believe in individual rights. You're just a collectivist that thinks that you need to stand in favor of protecting the blacks or the people of color, even though that doesn't include Asians. Because you have some lunatic Marxist that's told you what to think. Not that you've learned what to think or learned how to think, necessarily. It's you were told what to think and just abided. You're just a fucking follower, dude. So spare me with the fucking outrage. You know, really. Spare me with the pretend. Spare me with the acting of you being offended simply because some dumb bitch tweeted something. Who gives a shit? As if that means anything. As though that's leading to anything. Spare me. You know, and if that counts, then tell me why it doesn't count that you have a guy in a newspaper advocating the genocide of whites. If a tweet matters, why doesn't that article matter? And obviously, one's fucking worse, isn't it now? But you explain it to me. But I already know. I already know. It's because you're not an individualist. You don't believe in the individual. You don't believe in the individual rights, individual sovereignty. You don't believe any of that shit. You think that's all patriarchy and hierarchy and all that other, whatever. You are operating on through the Marxist lens, but likely guided through the philosophy, if you could call it that, the religion of postmodernism, where you are being told what to think, and you're just abiding. That is what you think, that is how you think, and that is what is motivating you to rant and rave on my fucking 300, whatever the fuck it is, a year subscription to this fucking network. I hope it's a call-in show, because if I fucking hear your stupid ass on there again, Mr. Old Hipster, on Sirius XM, I'm fucking calling in. I'm going to rip you a new asshole. And I'm going to swear, too. You know why? It's Sirius XM, so I can do it. So I'll call you a cocksucker on air. And if I can, I'll try to get a recording of it. I wish I could have done it, dude. I would have done it. I would have called him a fucking racist cocksucker and thrown all of this in his face. Because it's bullshit. It's stupid. It's petty. It's nonsense. Over a fucking tweet invoking Martin Luther King when you don't agree with what he believed. You don't. None of the fucking activists out there promoting all this horse shit, collectivism, none of them believe what Martin Luther King believed. None of them. None of them. They're a hell of a lot more like Malcolm X. But the thing is with Malcolm X, he wasn't a fucking retard. Unlike these people. He wasn't a follower. That's at least one of the best things I could say about him. Even though he was a fascist lunatic, at least he wasn't a fucking follower. But I'll just leave it there because I gotta go. Thanks for listening.